To decide comes from Latin, decidere, to cut. Happiness is a choice. We want to be able to cut limitations, disequilibrium, anger, stress and anxiety, and decide to be happy and create circumstances that would allow us to sustain such decision through time. We want to decide to function properly and to allow the best choices to represent our habitual way of interacting with the world. But we need to prepare ourselves to do that. If during the first 4 weeks of training we have begun to observe ourselves in any given moment of the day without dedicating any time to specific practices, from this article, though, we will introduce simple and short practices that will need to be repeated every single day, possibly more than once a day. Be respectful of the long time since your mind and breath have been abandoned in a continuous frantic wandering. Begin a journey. Plant seeds here and there all the time. Nourish them. It will be a daily growth, not a sudden explosion. It takes time to get there, because it takes time to fix dysfunctions that kept on being nourished through a life of traumatic experiences, as it takes time to impress the subconscious with new constructive habits. In many cases, we will be dealing with a fragile nervous situation. Too many forceful attempts are already undertaken all over the world. Too much violence trained and too much disappointment and harm caused from superficial and confused attempts. We will instead train love, compassion, care, intelligence and understanding. Our bodies and minds hold tension because we are frightened. How would you approach a frightened child that hides in a corner? With strength and violence? Would that help? Or cause further traumas? You are that child. That child is in a corner frightened. Approach him with all the needed comforting and loving attitude that would allow him to reach out to you. It doesn't matter if others didn't approach that child with the necessary care in the past. You're a grown-up now, and you can finally decide to take care of that child and protect him from all the external aggressions. Sometimes you will fall. Sadness might encourage giving up, and suffering might make you forget your purpose. The conservative attitude of the mind will keep on trying to find ways of avoiding you to respect your commitments to the practices. Try again and again. Tolerate falls and mistakes. Nourish the planted seeds. Enjoy the progressive growth. Look at yourself with the same love you would have while looking at a child that, learning to ride a bicycle, keeps on falling. With the previous articles, we have tried to understand which ones might be the causes of our dysfunctions, and how the social situation and the advent of medias in our century have influenced a drastic worsening of the emotional and nervous situation in an alarming percentage of the population. In the meantime, the tension has been identified as the main source of our mental and nervous dysfunction, nourished by frantic stimulations and from the disequilibrium. This tension keeps on expanding more and more deeply into the joints, the muscular tissues and the organs. The breathing pattern is mainly led by a muscle, the diaphragm. This muscle contracts, pulling itself downward, making room for the oxygen to come in, and then it relaxes, going upward, pushing out the carbon dioxide. Because of the tension, the diaphragm keeps on encountering more and more resistances, and in the struggle with the limited range of movement available to perform its duty. So, compelled by the involuntary nervous system, other muscles of the upper part of the chest are invited to support the constricted diaphragm in its task. The breathing, from a deep, relaxed, gentle one that involves the lower part of the trunk, turns into a more urgent, agitated and scattered one that involves more the upper part of the chest. We will call these two different dynamics of the breath, diaphragmatic breathing and upper chest breathing. An upper chest breathing implies lower amount of oxygen supply at every intaken breath, the storage of waste product within us, faster and more agitated breathing, extra work for the heart, stressful situation. So, how can we start granting at every breath the proper amount of oxygen needed by the brain and all the other organs to help them function properly? One simple, safe, comfortable posture will do the job for us. the crocodile posture. Lying down on a prone position, slightly lifting up the chest off the ground, and placing the rest of the body in the most comfortable position possible, it will be difficult for the incoming air to push the already expanded chest towards a further expansion. Air is like water. It goes where it finds least resistance. Least resistance is encountered by the incoming oxygen in the lower region of the trunk. So the diaphragm finds a more favorable environment to move freely and slowly, and will progressively retrain itself to use its full range of movement. We have already mentioned that breathing can be controlled from both voluntary and involuntary nervous systems. We can voluntarily control our breath flow, but as soon as we will get distracted, the involuntary nervous system will take care to have the breath continuing its flow. In most cases, though, the involuntary nervous system will repropose an upper chest breathing and pauses, noises, jerks, and shallowness, because those patterns have been repeated so many times that they became habits. From today, we will begin to repeat over and over again a posture that allows the breath to flow diaphragmatically, while observing breath defects and making a gentle effort to transform them into the correspondent qualities. Repetition will allow this way of breathing to become our habitual one, inducing transformations on a physical and mental level of extraordinary entity. Different therapies and therapists use nowadays the breath to alleviate tension and stress, but none of the ones I've encountered worries about transforming the breath flow while the breath is flowing under the control of the involuntary nervous system, inducing instead a transformation of the way the breath tends to flow throughout the entire day is the most efficient kind of therapy I've ever had the privilege to encounter. This moment is the core of our journey. If you will understand the importance of those information and would as a consequence start practicing regularly this posture, you would begin a journey of balancing your mind and body that would allow you to take concrete steps towards surprising results. The psychological aspects connected with this posture are the ones that usually trigger motivation in most of people to experience it repeatedly. We will talk about those aspects in the next article, though. We began preparing ourselves since over a month, trying to understand our situation as clearly as possible and beginning to develop awareness and careful observation of ourselves. At this point, it would be appropriate for each one to try to live the experience of this posture personally, using all the observations and suggestions received throughout the previous articles, trying to feel the sensations perceived while practicing it. It will be your own personal experience to bring results, nothing else. A video of guided instructions on how to position the body while performing the crocodile posture and an audio of guided practice of the same posture will be available throughout the week on our website. Every day is a continuous process of transformation. Be in charge of directing that transformation towards your own dreams and aspirations, instead of being a passive witness. Obstacles will keep on coming. People will carry on hurting. This will not solve all of our emotional problems overnight, but it will continuously make us more prepared to face them and go through them with less panic and fear, and will enable us to make better choices. This is power. Freedom.